You are listening to the Be Nice to Yourself podcast with Natalia Schneimler, episode 16. Welcome to Be Nice to Yourself podcast that will give you practical tools to finally be nice to yourself so you can stop yelling at your kids and enjoy being a mom. Using coaching and lots of love, I'm your Russian Canadian host, certified life coach, and mom of four, Natalia Schneidmiller. Hey guys, how's it going today? Well, I dropped off all my kids at school today for the first time and cried a little bit on the way home, but not because my little ones were going to school and they were growing up, but mostly because I just was a little bit worried. I guess it's the same thing, right? I was a little worried about the little ones and how they're gonna do with being at school for so long, so much longer than I've ever done. So I cried, and that that was enough. I got home, I was better. Anyway, I want to talk to you today about something that really I do naturally, and I thought that I really should share it with you so that it helps you in your day because it helps me so much as well now that um, that's why I want to share it with you. And it's something that I do to kind of like release some of the pressure that's building through the day in me, inside of me, right? To um, And what I do is I sometimes when I feel kind of full of like it's just too much going on, right? I feel kind of either backed up or just overwhelmed or anxious or especially right now with school starting and the schedule changing and us adjusting to the new way of how the schools are going and people going back to work, whatever is going on in your life right now, you might have a lot going on. What's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of thoughts about everything that's going on, right? But you also have to do your own life, right? You have to take care of your life. So you don't necessarily have time to sit there and feel all your feelings and to think what's going on and to process what's happening for you, right? So that's why I think we naturally have like this kind of built up as the day goes on, our bucket gets full of all these feelings and thoughts, and some of them don't get processed, so they kind of stay there until we process them. Does that make sense? This is how it feels for me. I kind of feel backed up in all my feelings until I let some of them out. And, a lot of us do that in different ways. Some of us, call a friend and vent, right? I would say that's one way of processing a feeling. You're just kind of like talk it out, talk it through, and after the conversation, you feel a lot better, right? You feel a relief. You're like, okay, I kind of got it out of my system. I feel better, and you can move on to the next thing, right? That's one way. Some people like sometimes we instead of feeling the feelings, we eat, right? We so that we kind of get distracted. We distract ourselves from not feeling so well. So that's one way, but it doesn't necessarily process the feeling, right? So the way that I want to offer to you to do this is kind of um, you can do it physically. So the way you would do it is you put your hands down by your legs, either if you're sitting or standing, and you can just take one finger, like you can do index finger, or you can do the whole hand, and you just gently tap just from like right side and then do the left side and then tap on the right side. Like no one has to notice. No one. It could be the smallest movement of your finger, but as you're tapping, and like as you do this, you can like check in with yourself. Like, oh, where am I? Where am I at? Where are you at now? Like, oh, what's happening for me right now? Like, I am so busy living my life. I sometimes don't even know what I'm feeling, like why I'm backed up, right? Like sometimes you need to stop and catch your breath and like, oh, it's kind of like when you're running so fast in the woods Sometimes you have to stop to see if you're going in the right direction, right? Check the compass, like check the trail, right? This is kind of like the same thing, but you're doing it internally in your body. And what you're doing is you're checking for your feeling. Like, how am I feeling right now? And what I want to just suggest to you that it doesn't mean you have to do anything with what you're feeling. A lot of the times, when we just check in where we are and we just name that feeling, or even just generally like think about what we're thinking, we release that emotion. We process it by finding it, by naming it. All it needed was to be heard, and once we hear it, we're like, oh right, I'm worried about kids lunches. And you take a big breath. You may do, one, the tapping on the sides, or if you feel that's weird, don't do that. But just generally, like, where am I at? Oh right, I'm worried about the lunches. Okay. And you know I want you to invite you to stay there for just even like 5 seconds, just like, okay, I'm worried about lunches, and I'm worried about lunches. I'm worried about lunches. Okay, you know what? I think I did a good job. I made sure they know what to do, how to take it out, what to eat, blah, 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 right? And so you hear yourself out. You give yourself space to be where you are, as opposed to running through life and going from one thing to the next. And if we don't kind of release that pressure that's being built up with all the emotions, and we don't process some of them, then that will end up in overwhelm and just constant anxiety, right? Constantly feeling like you're being attacked by all the life's demands and errands and things to do, and just overwhelmed by the amount of things that are in your mind, in your and you're feeling, right? And so I do this very almost every night, like when I get climb into bed, and I just kind of like do the tap gently on the sides of my legs just to like see where I'm at. And I would tell you, every time I check in with myself where I am, and kind of allow, just see what's there, I have like the shiver go through my body, and it's releasing it. Whatever has been backed up, whatever's been built up, it releases, and it gives me space to breathe. It's kind of like hitting a reset button in a way for you to, like, when, like, if the kettle's boiling over and the lid is on, right? And you're boiling, boiling, boiling. If you just lift up that lid and let some of that steam out, that's kind of how it feels. It feels like, okay, there's enough space for me to keep boiling, to keep living, to keep thinking thoughts, to keep feeling feelings. I can move on just because I have allowed for the steam to come out. I have allowed for me to have feelings about my life, right? To have thoughts about my life. And that I think is such a meta, small skill, small part of something that you can do part of your day, but will make a very big difference for you in your life, because the more you do it, the better you will get at it. And if you are doing it, the result for you will be more organized life, feeling safe in your life, feeling like you can rely on yourself to take care of yourself. Like, you know what? Even though I have so much going on right now, all these things that I'm trying to manage, and kids and school and work and all that, even during the busiest time, I can stop, pause, and I have like this specific step I can do is, tap on the sides of my legs with my hands, or just say, okay, let's check in where I am. Where am I? Okay, I'm feeling this. And so, just to give you a very specific thing for the way I do it is, I and I learned this from my therapist when she helped me process some emotions, which was super helpful, that I've taken in my life and do this now, right? Is once you check in with yourself, you might find something. Anything you find there is totally great. So you just get that, right? For example, right? Like if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm worried about the lunches. For me, I just stay there. I'm like, okay, I'm worried about the lunches. I'm worried about the lunches. And if I stay there in long enough, then it shifts into the next stage. Like, Okay, I did a good job. I think it's fine. I think it'll be fine. Okay. And then I move into the next stage of whatever comes up for me. So this is just an example. You don't have to do it this way, but I want to just offer to you as when you're doing, this is kind of like how it can look for you. It might look differently for you, but for me, it's kind of like going down the path. And as you go down the path, you find these different thoughts that your mind's offering to you, and you're like, pick up the thought and look at it. You're like, oh, okay, that thought, okay, I'll carry it for a bit until I find the next thought, and I'll carry this one for a bit until I find the next thought, and I carry this one for a bit. And as you do that, you are processing and feeling through all those thoughts, and that's why it's such a powerful exercise. um so this is what I have for you today, guys. I hope you take this and you apply it in your life. And let me know how this works for you, what comes up for you. I'll be happy to help you out in processing anything that's coming up for you in your life right now, especially with us going back to work and kids going back to school. I hope that that's going really well for you and you're kind of settling in. I love you all so much, and I will see you next week, and we'll talk about something else that will be super good for you to be nice to yourself. Love you all. Bye.